Welcome everybody. Turn on your cameras and let me just get up my little, there's a little app here that helps me remember in Google Classroom who's giving the prayer. Hold on, I can't remember how I do this. Let's see, do I do that? No, that's so funny, I've forgotten already. Oh, here it is. Okay, so Lucy Whitney. Did you do it last time? I don't think you did.
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful to Thee for this day. We're grateful that we can come to class and discuss the things that we've been learning. And please help us that we will be able to have a good discussion and come closer to finding truth. And we're grateful for Mrs. Greenman and the time that she puts into this. And we see these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Hey, thanks so much. Okay, so this has been like one of the busiest weeks of my life. My husband is still home. I don't know if you got the little message that he 2 days ago had some extreme pain and had what do you call them? Kidney stones. And I've never had those, so I don't know what they feel like, but yeah, we had to go to the hospital and spend like the whole morning. And then an hour after I got home, I got a little text from my daughter saying she was going in to have her baby. So I went there and I stayed there the whole night. And yesterday morning we left with no baby. So she's got false labor, and I've just been kind of talking to her and working with her, and just kind of crazy. So no baby still. What exciting things have been going on in your life? Anybody else? Anybody has some? Yeah, Enoch.
My week has been really busy too with driver's ed, because up here I've had it's only 7 days, but it's 4 hours and a lot of homework.
Oh, wow.
So
seven days of that?
But today's the last day though. Today's the last day. It was 4 last week and 3 this week, and then it'll be over, except for driving.
And then you'll need to what? Drive 40 hours? Is that what Utah requires?
Yeah, but I have to wait till my birthday to get my license.
Dang. That's awesome. Who else has taken driver's ed in this class? By raise of hands. Okay, most of you. That's awesome. Okay, good. What else? What else have you guys been doing this week? Anybody do something fun, or that your week is super busy that you want to scream like I do? Brinley.
Me and Lucy had a cross-country meet on Friday, and then we had another one yesterday. We have another one on Saturday.
Wow. So how many miles do you go when you do the cross-country meet?
The meets are like 3.1 miles.
Wow. Is that like a 5K? That's what I thought. Awesome. Anybody else? Carter, go ahead and tell us out loud.
I went to run off for a mountain bike race on Saturday.
Awesome. Are you involved in is it called Nika? Or is it Nika?
Yeah. I say it Nika, but it depends on the person.
Yeah, I think it's Nika.
Nika. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm a Spanish speaker, and so whenever I see the letter I, it's like E sound, because that's how all European languages pronounce their I as E. Awesome. Hannah was part of that league a couple of years ago, and so was Edie. She was one of the youth leaders and really, really, really loved it. And I think there's a Nika organization in Twin Falls. I think. Okay, anybody else?
Mom?
Yeah.
NICA just sponsors them, and they're like the main sponsor. Then you have your leagues that race for them.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
not.
That makes sense. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, anybody else? Yeah, Emma.
So we're getting ready to move into our new house, so that's like crazy. We also found out on Monday, well, my mom's pregnant, and we found out that the baby's going to be a girl, so that's going to be 6 girls and 1 boy.
Oh
That's pretty crazy.
That is crazy. So there's me and 6 brothers. So that's, I think I would have rather have had 1 brother and 5 sisters, but who knows? That's crazy. And Carter, that's the opposite of your family. So you have boys and 1 girl, 6 boys. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, that's kind of funny. And then I had 5 daughters and 1 son. That's so cool. When is she due to have her baby?
Valentine's Day.
Cool. That's awesome. I can't wait till my daughter has hers. We're just kind of going over the day. I think we're a few days late now. So that'll be interesting. Okay, let's get going. I just wanted, by raise of hands, how many are involved in a study group? 2 of you, 3 of you, 4, 5? Okay, more or less, Lucy. Okay, there's one for sure. Thanks, Elijah. There's one for sure going on Fridays. Is that right? Okay, is it at 2 mountain time? Okay, so make sure that you are putting that on your calendar. You can put it on your Google Calendar, and you can have a reminder, and that would be great. Maybe one of you could set it up and invite people to that and have it continue so that you're getting some reminders a couple of hours before, because it's super important. Oh, they're trying to get onto Zoom. Let me see. Let me get an invite. Hold on here. So let's see. 28282. What is it? 176. Okay. Okay. And all of you, are you going onto the website, the classroom, and you can see where the classroom link is? Is that how you're finding it? Or do you just already know it and just your computer remembers? Okay. We still have some people that are struggling. So just wondering. Okay. So study group, we are going to try and you're going to try and get involved in a study group, which would be super important. We don't do a lot of talking in this class. We only do an hour and a half, and you saw last week that we only went through quotes and things. And we'll do a little bit more of that today, but I've got something else planned that we're gonna watch. Kale, awesome that you're here. I want to show everybody just a really quickly. No, that's not. Yeah, I guess this is what I'll share this, but then I'll go to Google Classroom. And then if you go on to syllabus and book list, right there is the Google Classroom link for anybody who needs it. So you just click on it and it will help you open it. So just always open up Classroom first. Okay. Oh, I'm reading. I can do one on Friday next week, but this week I have class. Okay, and then Emma, I keep on forgetting, or I have stuff going. Okay, set your alarm on your Google Calendar or something on your phone. And make sure that you make it to those study groups. Let me see. Okay, and then another thing is several of you, a few of you, I should say, you continue to ask me questions whenever you don't understand. And right now, I'm giving a big shout out to you because you have all of you who are asking questions, you're all caught up. All of you who have told me that, why you aren't handing in assignments, we're connecting and making real connections. And those are super awesome tools for for your future, for college, for being married, for having roommates in college, for any kind of communication that you can do like that right now is going to help prepare you for your future. So keep it up. Those who have not asked questions and feel dumb if you're going to ask questions, change your ways and ask questions and get involved in communication, because if you can start now doing that, way to go. I'm going to say this because she's not with us anymore, but the person who asked the most questions was Madeline. And I miss her, and she's at college, and she sent me a text and she said, Sister Greenman, guess what? All those tools that you told us, especially asking questions and being connected with you, has totally helped me, because she's had to do that with her college teachers and the people that she is roommates with. Okay. Sorry, the door was open and poor Hannah was having feedback. So anyway, keep going, keep asking questions, keep the communication going. Even if you don't want to, just push yourself, because then you'll create that neural pathway in your brain, and you'll be able to use that tool for the rest of your life, as long as you keep the neural pathway going. All right, those who still have yet to put some stuff down, quotes, questions, or thoughts, keep going. Right now, let's do a few of them. Let's start with number 7 and go up toward number 1. So we'll go with Emma first. And then I've got a video we're going to watch. It's about 20 minutes long. And then we'll have some discussions after that. So we'll kind of be brief on these that we've got here so far. So Emma, do you want to start us off? It looks like you're in book 5. Thank you so much for writing down the books and the line numbers, because then we can go right straight to it. So book 5, line number 466.
So my quote was, well, I know the famous god of earthquakes hates my very name. And the reason I like that, I don't know, when I was reading that, I just thought that was really funny, because, he had just been like shipwrecked, and he had been through a lot of homeland. And then in my head, I was just like, kind of heard the voice like, well, you know what, now I know nothing else good has happened, but now I know that this guy hates me. But I don't know, I just thought that was funny.
And I think it's so characteristic of all of us, because even go up 5 lines before, he's retching in despair, and the next line, he feels this dark power that's going to loose a monster at him. He's got he knows that he is not loved by this Poseidon god, right? So he's losing hope. And I guess why I'm glad you brought this up is, do we hear negative voices like that? And why? And who do they come from? Do they come from Poseidon? And anybody can answer this. Do we hear negative voices like this? Enoch, yeah. Enoch's the only one in this class that hears negative voices like that. So I guess, Enoch, you and I, we're the only ones. Oh, okay, Carter's raising his hand. Kale, you're smiling. I can tell. We hear negative voices. Why? And who are they from? Carter.
we hear negative voices because that was what we were sent to this earth to be tempted and tried and to test our agency. And the negative voices are the opponents that, like, they're Satan trying to tempt us. And I forgot the other half of the question, so I'm not going to try.
So who? It was why and who? Yeah, you did it, Lucy. Add to this.
This reminded me, my favorite scripture is 2 Timothy 1:7, and it says, "For God hath not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." And so it just reminded me of that, because I always think of that, if God hasn't given me that feeling, then it must be from Satan. And like a lot of the times I'll replace the word fear with like anger or any almost any negative emotion, and just like Satan gives us those things because he wants us to be unhappy and he wants us to make bad decisions.
Absolutely. Good. Kale.
Well, like I agree with like Satan does like give you those negative feelings, but also it comes from yourself. Like you are your biggest critic. No one judges you as much as you judge yourself. So
Yeah. Good. Let me see if I can really quickly find this. I think it's in Moses 4. Yep, there it is. Okay, I love this. So it comes from Satan, and we are also saying this to ourselves. But who's telling us to say it to ourselves? I think, let's see, share screen. So this is in Moses. Let me move your pictures away here. So this is Moses 4:3. Let's see. Emma, will you read this right here? And let's find out what, oops, it says I have to sign in, but I'm not going to do that. So it's just verse 3. So as she's reading that, let's find out what his whole purpose is. What is Satan's whole purpose? Go ahead, Emma. Is that big enough for you? There, is that better?
Yeah. Wherefore, because that Satan rebelled against me and sought to destroy the agency of man, which I, the Lord God, have given him, and also that I should give unto him mine own power, by the power of mine only beloved, I caused that he should be cast.
Okay, so we've got a lot of things going in there, but let's focus right on Satan's plan. What is his whole purpose? Just a second. I'm texting another. Erica, my daughter, someday is going to join us. She had to move this week into an apartment. She's just not happy that she's not been able to be with us, but she's busy. And I just had to tell her I was in class. So what, let's see, Carter, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
So Kale put it in the chat just barely, but Satan's purpose is to destroy the agency of man.
Yeah. Have any of you ever been in a victim mode where you feel like the blame is on somebody else? Yeah. That's exactly Satan's plan. He wants to destroy your agency, your ability to make a decision. So by saying it's so-and-so's fault, then you don't have any responsibility and you don't have any, you're basically giving your agency up. It's so funny. And we think it's us, and it's really Satan. He's trying to destroy our agency. So interesting. So I'm really, really glad that you brought this up, because Odysseus is losing hope. And when we lose hope, we open the doors to think of all the monsters that are going to come in and hate us and kill us. And there's doom and gloom, and it's pretty awful. But then let's just look really quickly down below what Emma brought up. Let's read those next lines. It's 468 or so. Just as that fear went churning through his mind, a tremendous roller swept him toward the rocky coast where he'd have been flayed alive, his bones crushed, if the bright-eyed goddess Pallas had not inspired him now. And so we're gonna see she's inspiring him to go find a place to take care of himself and eventually find a place to sleep, right? And to take care of himself. So he's realizing, I don't want to focus all my energy on this Poseidon and this monster. I want to go take care of myself. And so Pallas, Athena, helps him. Love that. Thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else have something else you want to bring up? Okay, let's go above in number 6. This is Kendyl. Kendyl, take it away.
Okay, can you hear me clearly?
You know, we can hear you, but you're never very clear to me.
I know, like besides mentally clear, but we've just had some bad internet problems this morning. But I'm glad you can at least hear me.
We can hear you. You're doing great. And you're clear.
Thank
Go
you.
for it.
Okay. So in book 6, from lines 206 through 209, it says, it's Olympian Zeus himself who hands our fortunes out, each of us in turn, to the good and bad. However Zeus prefers, he gave you pain, it seems. You simply have to bear it. And so it just reminded me of just like the trials we have in our lives and the way that we are able to face them because of the knowledge we have of Heavenly Father, of God, that not all trials are going to be caused by him, of course. Like there are some of the devil, there's some because of our own actions and decisions, but just know that it's part of life, and that in order to grow and have the attributes Odysseus has through his trials, we need to be able to find a way to overcome them and just like rise above it.
I love that. Have any of you really at your age had a really, really hard trial where you felt like you had a lot of pain and you just really had to bear it, and that you felt like somebody was helping you? Or maybe you didn't feel like anybody was helping you. Has anybody had? I mean, I don't know at your age. I can't remember. My pains and trials are so big now that I forget what it was like when I was younger. But tell me, have there been times where you really felt like you just simply had to bear it and it helped you? Carter, was that I think, but I'm not going to say anything?
Yeah, it was an I think, but I'm not sure. So I don't like math, and in order to graduate high school, I need math credits, right? So I'm currently forcing myself to go through math so I can graduate high school, even though I dislike math. And that's just one example.
Yeah. So find yourself some good tutors and just push through, right? That's a really good example. You know you have to do it. You don't want it, but you're just going to bear it. Awesome. Good. Naomi, welcome. We're on the class notes, and we're talking about that we're going to have trials and tribulations and feel pain, and we just simply have to bear it. And sometimes we have help from, divine help. Does anybody else want to share another experience where you've really felt a lot of pain? I'm going to lean back on my chair, so I'll move this. You've felt a lot of pain, and it's very difficult to bear. You don't even know the end of what you're going to have to deal with. Kendyl.
I guess I'll share. A few, like when I was younger, I was living with some cousins for like 4 or 5 months. And so I just missed my family a ton. I was like 12, and it was hard to be away from my family and my siblings. And it was just like right now, I couldn't imagine my life without that experience, just because being away from the people I love so much kind of forced me to develop a good relationship with Heavenly Father. And so without that, I don't know what I would have done to get the relationship I have now than I had then. So I'm just so grateful for that experience, even though it was hard and I was like miserable, but it was something that I couldn't imagine my life without.
Wow. So you're saying that sometimes when we're in the deepest pain, we have a great opportunity to reach out to God and improve that relationship. Is that right? I agree. I love that. Wow. Okay. Brinley.
So I don't know. This really caused me a lot of pain, like a little over a year ago. I was like struggling with like my self-worth and things like that, and I wouldn't like share my feelings with my family, so my family didn't know. And some of them were kind of feeding off that and making those feelings worse. And I don't know, I just started like praying and fasting about it. And I was able to kind of overcome that and like talk to my family, and I read some scriptures that really helped me with that. And like also Christ's atonement helped me to know that even if I am struggling with something, it doesn't make me a bad person, because I can still repent of that. So
I love that. And Brinley, as you were thinking, I just thought that wasn't something where you just simply had to bear it. You did something about it. It'd be terrible if you just bore it and you continue to have struggles with self-worth and you just still bore it. That wouldn't be right. So this is a situation where, no, this is wrong. I've got to get out. I've got to get help. I love that. And some of us may be in that situation too, where we're struggling with feelings of self-worth. And it's not right to just to bear it, right? I loved what you said, that you fasted and you prayed and you allowed the atonement of Jesus Christ to help you overcome it. Wow, that's powerful. Good. Okay, let's go to the next one up. Let's go to number 4. This is Lucy.
Okay, so this is in book 4, line 688. And I think it was, I should probably double check, but I think it was Menelaus talking to Telemachus. And he says, "Good blood runs in you, dear boy, your words are proof." And although, like, I don't agree that it's because he had good blood in him, I liked that, like, it showed the power of the words that we use and, like, the little decisions that we make in our interactions with other people, because it seems like sometimes you might think that, like, our words or the little things we do aren't important, or that they don't affect us or how others see us, but really, like, I think they make a big impact on who we are and how others think of us, I guess.
Love that. I'm just annotating right now. This is really inspiring. By the way, I hope you all have a pen or pencil. Mine actually says Julie's pen, because I don't like people to take my pens. I have specific pens I really like. I hope you're taking your pen, and I hope you're marking some of these things that are really inspiring to you. Okay? Because sometime down the road, when you pick up this book again, and you have added a lot of experience to your life, and you read this and you remember what you wrote there, and it's like all this knowledge comes pouring out of you, and all this pondering experience happens, and it's amazing. Have any of you ever done that before? You've written a book, you've gone back to it, and you've learned again, or you've learned even deeper? Good. So Eliana's yes, Kendall's yes. This is awesome. So I promise you, your mom will not give you a spanking. And if she does, tell me and I'll talk to her for writing in your books. She's not going to. This is going to be like the best thing. Okay, awesome. Words make a big impact on who we are. What would you think I meant if I said, I give you my word that I will do something? What does that mean to you? Yeah, Jakobi.
You had promised me something.
And do you think that I will, what's the word I'm wanting? It's a simple word. Do you think I will perform, I will deliver if I give you my word?
I think so.
Probably because you know me, Jakobi, right? So I don't think when I was younger, if I would have given my word to somebody, I might not have promised. I might not have delivered, because I remember learning the hard way that when I tell somebody I will do something, when I promise I will do something, I remember learning the hard way that I didn't. And that was very difficult. And I went through a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work. And so now, yeah, you know me, and so I'll give you my word, and it makes a big impact on who I am, right? I like that, Lucy. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, we are on Jakobi's next, number 3.
Okay. No finer,
Wait.
greater gift.
Hold on. Let's all go there. Book 6. Sorry. Is it book 6? Yes, book 6, lines 200. Just so that we're all there and we can read with you. Okay, I'm ready.
No finer, greater gift in the world than that when man and woman possess their home, 2 minds, 2 hearts that work as one. I really like that, because when, like, I've noticed as my parents have been married in the temple and things like that, that they talk to each other and they discuss things and what's best for our family.
They're 2 minds and 2 hearts, and they're working as one, right? I love that. Carter.
I think that this quote, it's a great quote, but I think it's not complete until you finish that last line and add the line after it. And it says, despair to their enemies, a joy to all their friends. Their own best claim to glory is their working as one. It just brings it all together even more.
Yeah, that is awesome. What comes after yours that says their own best claim to glory?
I just went on and talked myself.
Oh, I thought
that was me talking. It wasn't the book.
Okay, I thought, oh, I don't have that line. I love it. I think you're right. And despair to the enemies, like the enemies aren't going to be able to pull a good marriage down because they're working as one. Love that. Great. This is a good description of marriage. If you were ever to teach a lesson in your church classes about marriage, I would hope that you would bring up quotes like this from the great books. Because you've got to know that our Heavenly Father loved every single child that has come to this earth. And the Spirit, or the light of Christ, has been given to Homer to teach some good principles, even though he didn't have the fullness of the gospel. And this would be a great great quote. I would hope that you would put down something like description of marriage, and then maybe in the front of your book, you know, if you do a little, or the back of your book, if you do a little index and you put marriage and you put page number 174, if that's what the page is. And then hopefully it would help you. Like, I love going to the back of my book and making indexes. And then I'll look at this book and I'll look up marriage and I'll go, oh, that's exactly what I need for this talk that I'm going to give in church. I would hope that you would do that. Super. Let's go to, thanks, Jakobi. Let's go to Carter. Yours, number 1.
Just a second, I'm writing.
Oh, okay. Let's actually go down to 8. Eliana. Okay, everybody go to book 4.
Okay. So what it says is, such memories stirred in the young prince a deep desire to grieve for Odysseus. And I just thought that was interesting because, I don't know, has anyone ever seen the movie Mr. Majorium's Wonder Emporium?
You're cutting out for me. Has anybody seen what?
It's a movie called Mr. Majorium's Wonder Emporium.
No, I haven't.
It's a cute movie. If you haven't seen it, then it's worth watching. But anyways, he talks about, in it, the Mr. Majorium talks about death, and he's talking about King Lear and how at the end, when King Lear dies, it just says he died. And how Shakespeare doesn't say anything more than just he died. And he's like, it takes Shakespeare like eons to just come up with he died. And he's saying the reason why those words have such a strong effect on us is because of everything that came before. And so I think that kind of shows here this, like, all of these happy memories, all of these experiences in the background, when they come up, I can't really feel that joy so much, or it's kind of a little bit glossed over with this deep desire to grieve because there's that loss of what existed before, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I really have a question, but like, I was just thinking about that and how things that are really like beautiful and happy can become kind of, I don't know, sad in a deeper way if you lose them.
Yeah. I'm thinking of some stories that I heard from my family history. I never knew these people. I never had a memory of them. But by listening to them, the memories that I was listening to these, as I was listening to these stories, were actually my memories because they built my world. And they gave me, after that, they gave me a deep desire to be happy or to grieve or to whatever. I love this. So this might be going maybe in a different place than you were intending, but as I think about what you said, and I think about what I just said, is as we learn the stories of our history, whether they're Homer's part of our history, whether they're from Homer or whether they're from our family history, our recent family history, they are what gives us those desires. They're those memories that give us those desires to either grieve, be happy. Wow, I love that.
I agree. And also I'd say that I think it's interesting. It talks about, the young prince and how he connects the story. And so like, it makes me feel like it's connected to like identity formation and the way that we see ourselves and talk about ourselves is really impacted by the stories that we listen to. Stories, even specifically of our ancestors.
Yeah, I love how you said identity formation, and I added that note. Thank you. Thanks for helping me create a better book with better notes. I love that. Does anybody want to add something to that? Have you ever had an experience where you learned some things about your life that you didn't know maybe before, and it helped you have that identity, that it gave you more of an identity of who you were? Kendyl.
Well, I guess like on trek, we were supposed to walk for someone who crossed the plains, and so it was fun to be able to like explore and research and all the books that you and Grandma have made or things like that about our family and about the people who have crossed the plains, and just connecting with those people and choosing one to walk for. And then while you're walking for them, just thinking of all the things that they had to go through. And that was something that was so cool. And so I still remember that, like anytime I hear whoever I walked for, her name, it's just like, it's cool to see how much I connected with her. Even though I've never met her on Earth, I probably knew her before, and I just got to know her even better by walking for her and learning about her.
That's neat. Was it Alice Fishwaltz or was it Flory Green?
I did Alice, but
Alice.
I did Flory for some kind of research project. We did family history for mutual one time, and I used Flory.
Awesome. Yeah. She becomes you. She helps you to know who you are. I love that. Elijah.
One of the coolest things, I guess, that we like can have as like members of the church is like knowing our divine identity as sons and daughters of Heavenly Father. And I think that makes kind of what Eliana was talking about. I think that makes a big difference in our identity formation, because since we have that knowledge, there's, I guess, more of a sense of like hope and integrity, because we know that even if, you know, we might not have many friends here on earth, or we might not have a position of power or something worldly possessive that, you know, is good, we still know that there's something greater than this earth and that God still loves us. And that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. And I don't know if any of you have noticed yet, but identity is an extremely important thing in the Greek heritage. Have you noticed how people ask, who are you, Telemachus? Who's your family? Where are you from? What have you done in your life? Do you see that? And then did you see in the Phaeacians kingdom, you know, where the girl takes Odysseus back to her kingdom, and they tell these stories, and then they ask him, after he's been crying listening to these memories, and they ask him, who are you? Where do you come from? Who is your family? What have you done in your life? Identity is so extremely important to the Greeks, and they are the foundation of our heritage. And identity is extremely important to us. Who are you? Whose child are you? We're children of our parents, but we're children of God too. Identity is extremely important. Thanks, Elijah. Thanks for helping me remember that too. So awesome. Okay, let's go back up to Carter. Number 1, are you done, Carter?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, let's all go to book 4, line 119, 120. I'm almost there. Okay.
Okay, it says I can't pronounce this.
Achaean.
Achaean. No Achaean labored hard as Odysseus labored or achieved so much. And how did his struggles end? In suffering for that man. And then I'm going to read it again and replace a few words.
Okay.
No Jew labored hard as Christ labored or achieved so much. And how did his struggles end? In suffering for that man.
Ooh, that's emotional.
Yeah, I thought it was cool how it's sort of relatable to Christ if you read it differently. and it doesn't necessarily tie in with the book itself if you read it that way, but it's just interesting that you can change the words and read it differently.
I love that.
And
this brings up to mind that when we read books, it's not so much that we're getting the information that's in there. It's so that we're opening up our brain waves and our spirit that we can receive teachings from the Holy Ghost, because the Holy Ghost teaches us all things that are true, right? And so what you did just now was you were open to see a likeness, and that is awesome. And now I get to write that in my book, and that is fabulous. I love that. And we're going to see in a lot of books that we read for the rest of our lives, we're going to see archetypes of Christ and archetypes of other things. Poseidon, for me, is an archetype of Satan. So every time I read about Poseidon, that's who I think of. Of course, he's really loving and kind to other members of the world, but not to Odysseus. And that's how I see him, as an archetype of Satan. Love that. Kale, add to this.
Like how you said, like Poseidon was like how you thought of him as Satan.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like funny. Like the Greeks, they always like, it's always like, if you hurt someone in my family, I'm going to hurt you. And that's what Odysseus did to Poseidon's family. And that was kind of the reason that it all led up to it.
Yeah. This hatred.
Yeah.
Yes. Good thought. Let's go. Thank you, Carter. Let's go down. I'm looking at the time, and we probably need to. So Enoch and Mia, thank you so much for putting something there as well. I hope maybe we can come back to that one and mine on number 16. So let's go to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a video that I have purchased. Where is it? Oh, here it is. But this is showing a picture of Sparta right now. Wait, I can't find it. So this is the Acropolis of Sparta. So right here is the Acropolis, which is some old ruins that were used for the governmental happenings of Sparta. And then you can see Sparta in the background and the kind of mountains that they had. So this is where Menelaus would have lived. Probably not in any of these houses. As we understand, Menelaus really was a true person, but I don't know about his wife because according to Homer, Helen was the daughter of Zeus, like the daughter of Zeus, like Christ would be the daughter of God, right? But we know, scholars think that Menelaus was a real man and he really was married. We don't know who he was really married to, but anyway, this is kind of the place that he would live, kind of a beautiful place with green grass. Greece is this whole area, okay? You've heard Paul going to the Thessalonians. They lived in Thessaly, so this is part of Greece. This right here is Athens. So this would have been the main portion of Greece that we talk about in the Golden Age of Greece that we're going to be reading about in a little while. This is Sparta. And so Sparta is part of this Peloponnese, or we're going to read a book called the Peloponnesian Wars. This is when the wars were going on between Peloponnese and Athens. Okay. So according to Homer, Menelaus lived right here in Sparta. Okay. And what we understand is that Odysseus is from Crete. Okay. And so here is here's where Troy is about here. And so these Greeks who, by the way, Helen was stolen by Paris. Paris lives over here. He's the son of King Priam. And he comes over and he sees this beautiful woman and he steals her away and takes her back up to Troy. And then Menelaus and his brother Agamemnon, Achilles, and all these, Odysseus and all these important people get in their boats and they go up to Troy and they fight for 10 years. And then they give the Trojans a horse, that's hollow. We already know a lot about this. So I'm just kind of trying to bring a review of this to you so that you understand what's going on. And then, of course, Odysseus, everybody else gets home or they die because they're reckless. And poor Odysseus, he's stopping at all sorts of islands and everything. And he finally gets back home by the middle of this book. Okay, so now you kind of have another idea in your mind how this goes on. But what I want to do is I want to listen to what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? This guy. I love this guy, and I know his name, and now I can't remember. Anyway, we're going to start at about 1:33. Oh, I'm supposed to share my computer noise. Hold on, share computer sound. There. Oops. Stop share. I don't want to share my whole screen. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So this is going to be about, I think I might stop it before the end, but he's going to talk about books 5 through 8. And then I have some discussion questions for you. So please take notes. Remember that sometimes your notes don't have to be what he said, but what's coming to your mind, because remember the Spirit teaches you all things that are true, and it'll teach you some things that maybe you need to know according to the experiences that you've had. So get out your paper and pen and write down, take notes. Okay.
Nevertheless, the Odyssey is quite different. We talked in our last discussion about the first 4 books of the Odyssey, which are called collectively the Telemachy, because they focus on the story of Telemachus, Odysseus' son, going out finally to try and find his father now that he's reached the age of majority. And Telemachus has not seen his father for 20 years. His father left home before the Trojan War. Odysseus has gone for 10 years during the Trojan War. Now he's been wandering for nearly 10 years. And so Telemachus, Odysseus' son, must be close to the age of 20. The last time he saw his father was when he was an infant, so there's no way he can remember what his father looks like. But he's sure that his father is alive, and so he's encouraged by the goddess Athena, who's sent out by a council of the gods to talk to him. He's encouraged by Athena and consequently proceeds on a journey to go find his father. Well, that all takes place in books 1 through 4. In book 3, Telemachus visits Nestor, the wise old counselor of the Greeks. In book 4, he visits Menelaus and Helen in Sparta and gets some information about his father. And there, that thread stops, and we shift over to Odysseus. And that's where we are today. We'll talk about books 5 through 8. The scene has shifted to Odysseus, where he's stuck on the island of Calypso, a sea nymph. He's been there for 7 years at least. At the beginning of book 5, the scene turns there, and we see Calypso on her island, and the Council of the Gods sends Hermes, the messenger god, to tell Calypso to let Odysseus go. In the early lines of the book, we see Hermes doing this. He responds to the directive of the gods, goes to Calypso, and urges her to let Odysseus go free. And she complains. She says, "Why are the gods so jealous? Why won't they let me have a husband, one of these handsome mortal men who happened to stumble across my island? Look what I found. Can I keep him?" But apparently the gods say no, and she's angry. She says, "Why don't the gods, the other goddesses, have mortal lovers? Why can't I have one?" She says, "You're hard-hearted, you gods, and jealous beyond all creatures beside, when you are resentful toward the goddesses for sleeping openly with such men as each has made her true husband. So when Dawn of the Rosy Fingers chose out Orion, all you gods who live at your ease were full of resentment, until chaste Artemis of the Golden Throne in Ortygia came with the visitation of painless arrows." And so she proceeds into stories about how other goddesses have had human lovers. "But no, I don't get one," she says. Nevertheless, she's not angry at Odysseus. She tells Hermes, "All right, fine, I'll let him go," and she does. And so Calypso tells Odysseus that the will of the gods is that he must go, and though she's sad because she wanted to keep him there and make him her husband, she knows he's been weeping for 7 years for the loss of his wife and his homeland, and she says, "All right, fine." She helps him make a raft, and she makes sure that he's safely provisioned, and then he sets off. So in the rest of Book 5, then, Odysseus is sailing away from Calypso, but Poseidon, the god who is hostile to Odysseus, who is angry at him, who's keeping him wandering over the ocean for years because of what Odysseus has done to his son, the Cyclops. And now remember, we're told this in the beginning of Book 1. We'll actually read the account of the Cyclops in an upcoming book, in Book 9. But Homer has already tipped his hand and told us that this is why Poseidon is angry. Well, Poseidon now harasses Odysseus as he wanders over the sea in his raft, finally destroying the raft in a great storm. He wrecks the raft. A sea nymph named Leucothea rescues Odysseus and gives him her veil to float him, sort of a divine water wings, I guess. And Odysseus, aided by Athena and by this sea nymph Leucothea, avoids the rocks and the shoals and washes up ashore on the island of Scheria, the land of the Phaeacians. And that's the end of Book 5. So at the end of Book 5, Odysseus finally has escaped after 7 years of being stranded on Calypso's island. He's been at sea for 17 days. He's been shipwrecked and in the water for a long time. He's wrinkled from the sea. He's thirsty. He's hungry. He's exhausted. He's bedraggled. He's salt-encrusted. And he staggers up on the beach and collapses into some bushes, covers himself with leaves and branches, and falls into a deep sleep. At the beginning of Book 6, the scene shifts again, but this time it shifts inland on Scheria to a Phaeacian princess named Nausicaa, who is told by her father that her wedding day is coming up, and she must prepare for her marriage. So she's going to go down to the shore, unknowingly where Odysseus is sleeping, and she's going to wash her wedding clothing along with her maidens. Now, she doesn't know who she's going to marry. Her father says, "Your marriage is coming up." And we go, "Wait, who's the bridegroom?" Well, we don't know. But she has arrived at marriageable age, which means in the ancient world, and actually for most of Western history, 13 or 14. Recall just for a moment that Juliet is only 13 when she's engaged by her parents to a rich young man that she doesn't like and falls in love with Romeo, and then we have the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. She's only 13. It's quite likely that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was only 13 or 14. We usually imagine her as a woman of 20 or 30, but probably not. She's a young teenage girl. So for most of history, young women are of marriageable age when they're 13 or 14, and that's how old Nausicaa is. So her father says, "You're of marriageable age, your marriage is coming up, I better find somebody for you to marry." Now, Nausicaa looks around, and here I'm reading into the story, but one can just imagine this. Nausicaa looks around at the other young men on the island of the Phaeacians. And the young men her age, she's not impressed with. Imagine, to put this in modern terms, she sees all these young men with the baseball caps turned backwards and no fear t-shirts and baggy crotch wrap pants halfway down to the knees and skateboards under their arms, and she says, "I have to marry something like this?" In other words, she looks at a typical young teenage man who's not ready for marriage. But then a girl of her age in the ancient world and for most of history would not marry a young man her age. It was not typical to marry someone who's the same age as you. A girl of 13 or 14 or 15 would marry a young man in his early 20s, at least 10 years older than her, because the young men are not ready to be married until they've had military experience in their late teens, and after military experience come back and settle down and start a business, make some money, and can offer what women really want, which is security, right? Of course. And so Nausicaa looks at these young teenage men who are still just on the verge of manhood, have nothing to offer. They're obviously not going to be her bridegroom. Who else is a possibility? Well, she goes down to the shore to wash her wedding clothing, probably disturbed of mind and heart about who she's going to marry. And as she and her maidservants are washing the clothing, and while it hangs out to dry, they play ball. The first mention of baseball in history, right? As they're playing ball, out of the bushes staggers this bedraggled, salt-encrusted, rough-looking, long-haired, shaggy-bearded man. Odysseus, by this time, is probably in his late 30s, or let's say between 38 and 40, let's guess. He comes staggering out of the bushes, and of course he's lost everything. His clothing is all rotted off, so he's holding branches in front of him to, for modesty's sake. But the other maidservants run screaming away at the sight of this figure, this apparition coming out of the bushes. Nausicaa stands her ground. She says, "Who are you, stranger, and what are you doing here?" She receives him kindly. He asks her for help, supplicates her as well as anyone can supplicate in the state in which he is, and she gives him some spare clothing. Here's an old suit of my father's, put this on. And she says, after his story that he's a lost wayfarer, she says, I'll take you back to the city. You can meet my parents. So Nausicaa, this young girl, has him ride in the wagon with her as they head back to the city. But as they approach the city gates, she says, "Now I'm going to stop the wagon. You better get out and walk behind for the sake of my reputation and yours, for the sake of appearances. We don't want to be seen sitting on the seat. People will gossip." In other words, she's a prudent young girl. She's circumspect. And Odysseus is impressed by this. Athena, meanwhile, the goddess who always is watching out for Odysseus and taking care of him, has kind of made Odysseus look a little bit better. She's glorified his appearance a little bit so that he'll be looked on favorably by people. And surely this impresses Nausicaa. So now she's thinking to herself, if I have to get married, here's a likely prospect. This man looks pretty good, because now that he's been kind of buffed up and shined up by Athena, and he's wearing some nice clothes and is cleaned up. He's an older man. He's well spoken. He obviously has experience. He's a man of the world. Here's somebody with something to offer. So at the end of Book 6, Nausicaa and Odysseus have arrived back in the city of the Phaeacians, where her father, King Alcinous, and her mother, Queen Arete, are waiting her return. She comes back into the city with Odysseus walking behind, hidden in a mist that's brought upon him by Athena, because Athena is always watching over him and guiding him and making sure he's taken care of. And for the moment, it won't do for him to be seen by the people. In Book 7, Odysseus comes with Nausicaa into the palace of her father, King Alcinous. And he looks around at Alcinous' palace, and it's a magical place. There's a magical garden where the fruit trees are bearing fruit year-round, and there's golden dogs guarding the doorway, animated living beasts made of metal. Everything is strange and supernatural and magical. And many people have commented on this magical garden, this magical palace, and pointed out how often in literature and history gardens, especially magic gardens, show up, and what an appeal, a deep appeal to the human psyche, the idea of a garden, protected, hidden, and secluded, and perhaps containing secrets, is. And we think about the very first garden, to our knowledge, which is the Garden of Eden. We think about modern stories about gardens. C.S. Lewis's story of the garden to the north in the Chronicles of Narnia that the children fly to. The modern children's story by Frances Hodgson Burnett, The Secret Garden. All these stories of gardens that that appeal to people in history, this is part of. It's a magical place. It's an exotic place. But Odysseus is taken into the palace to meet Nausicaa's parents, King Alcinous and Queen Arete, and they welcome him. And King Alcinous is not blind to the possibilities, and he actually suggests a marriage of Odysseus to Nausicaa, which Odysseus turns down. He's thankful for the thought, but he graciously turns it down and says, "No, I'm married. I have to get on home to my own wife. Can't do it." So Nausicaa, of course, is disappointed, but Odysseus is received warmly by the people of the Phaeacians. And so in Book 8, having been found by the princess, brought home to the city, in Book 8 we read about the reception that Odysseus receives, the feasting in the palace, and the celebratory games and so on. At the beginning of Book 8, Homer, in typical fashion, says, "When the young dawn showed again with her rosy fingers," Alcinous, the hallowed prince, rose up from his sleeping, and the descendant of Zeus, Odysseus, sacker of cities, rose up. And Alcinous, the hallowed prince, guided them to the Phaeacians' place of assembly, which was built for them by the ships. They went and took their seats on the polished stones together, but a Pallas Athena went through the city, likening herself to the herald of wise Alcinous, as she was devising the return of great-hearted Odysseus. She's always there. She's always with Odysseus, making sure that the situations are manipulated to his advantage. They go to the place of assembly, and there's a feast. And in the assembly, in the great court of Alcinous, Alcinous's bard sings stories about Odysseus at Troy, about the Trojan horse, about the theft of the Palladium, and so on. And so the bard of King Alcinous is singing about stories that Odysseus himself has partaken of, and the people who are listening don't know that the great Odysseus is right there with them. This is at least 7 years after the fall of Troy, and so stories of the Trojan War have, without question, been circulating around the Mediterranean. And the Phaeacians would certainly know about the great events of the fall of Troy, and they would know about the great heroes like Odysseus. Here's the bard Demodocus singing about Odysseus, and sitting in the very midst is Odysseus, but he's anonymous. The people don't know his name. When he came into the city, and when he was received by the king, he was offered the same sort of hospitality that Menelaus and Nestor offered Telemachus back in books 3 and 4, and that other people offer in the Greek stories. Following a code of hospitality that requires that you not ask the stranger to tell his story until he's had a warm bed and a warm meal and a fresh change of clothing and a bath and is comfortable. So here it is the next day after Odysseus has come into the city, and only now are they in a position to ask him his name, but they haven't done it yet. And so he's sitting among them, an anonymous stranger, being treated hospitably and listening to stories about his own involvement in the war at Troy. Homer says that when he hears these stories, Odysseus pulls his cloak over his head and weeps, and the Phaeacians look at him and think, who is this man? There's some connection between him and the stories that Demodocus is singing. Now think for a moment about this poet, the poet Demodocus. He is a blind bard. He's treated honorably by the people. Homer says in line 62, the herald came near, bringing with him the excellent singer whom the muse had loved greatly. Now this is the bard Demodocus. And the muse gave him both good and evil. She reft him of his eyes, but she gave him the sweet singing art. Pontonoa set a silver-studded chair out for him in the middle of the feasters, propping it against a tall column. And the herald hung the clear lyre on a peg placed over his head, and showed him how to reach up with his hands and take it down, and set beside him a tablet and a fine basket, and beside him a cup to drink whenever his spirit desired it. They put forth their hands to the good things that lay ready before them, but when they had put away their desire for eating and drinking, the muse stirred the singer to sing the famous actions of men on that venture, whose fame goes up into the wide heaven. And he tells the stories. Now this is a fascinating description of a blind bard, and many people have observed that this could be Homer putting himself into the story. In other words, the picture that we get here of Demodocus is really a picture of Homer himself. Blind, honored by the people, asked to sing the great stories, and so on. And we're also told by Homer that the muse has taken away from the poet the gift of external sight with his eyes, but given him the gift of internal sight and the sweet singing art. Homer may here be describing his own memory of what's happened to him. According to tradition, he'd gone blind in midlife. He was not born blind, but his sight was taken away. But in recompense for his sight being taken away, the muses have given him the gift of memory and of singing. It's a fascinating thought, and it could be true that here we have a description of Homer himself. And this is unquestionably the sort of thing that Homer would have found himself doing, sitting in the court of a great king and being asked after the feasting to tell his stories. So he does eventually. After Demodocus, the poet, tells the stories of Troy, Odysseus is given gifts. He is about to say farewell to the people, but then they ask him to identify himself. They say, who are you? What is your name? Now that you've been with us for a while, we'd like to know your story. What is your name? Who is your father? Where are you from? And one of the reasons they ask this is simply because they have a right to now, but also because he's been weeping during the telling of the stories. And so he's invited to tell his life and the story of his journey. Where have you come from? Where were you driven off course? What countries peopled by men you came to? Tell us about the men themselves and their strong-founded cities. Who were savage and violent? Who were without justice? Which were hospitable and with a godly mind for strangers? And tell me why you weep in your heart and make lamentation when you hear of the Argives and the Danaans' venture and hear of Ilion. Could it be that you had some companion, a brave man, knowing thoughts gracious towards you, since one who is your companion and has honorable thoughts towards you is of no less degree than a brother? And where is he? All these questions finally prompt Odysseus to tell his story, and that's what he does at the beginning of Book 9. So in the next lecture, I'll be talking about Books 9 through 12, which are all Odysseus' narration of his adventures in the time between he left Troy and this moment as he sits talking to the Phaeacians. At the very beginning of Book 9, he's going to respond this way. Resourceful Odysseus spoke in turn and answered, O great Alcinous, preeminent among all people, surely indeed it is a good thing to listen to a singer such as this one before us, who is like the gods in his singing. For I think that there is no occasion accomplished that is more pleasant than when festivity holds sway among all the populace, and the feasters up and down the houses are sitting in order and listening to the singer. And beside them the tables are loaded with bread and meats, and from the mixing bowl the wine steward draws the wine and carries it about and fills the cups. This seems to my own mind to be the best of occasions. But now your wish was inclined to ask me about my mournful suffering, so that I must mourn and grieve even more. What then shall I recite to you first of all? What leave till later? Many are the sorrows the gods of the sky have given me. Now first I will tell you my name, so that all of you may know me, and I hereafter, escaping the day without pity, be your friend and guest, though the home where I live is far away from you. I am Odysseus, son of Laertes, known before all men for the study of crafty designs, and my fame goes up to the heavens. So Odysseus begins his answer to their question, who are you, stranger, by saying, first of all, let me tell you, O King Alcinous, what a great feast you've put on for me here. And he praises the circumstances, he praises the bard, and he praises the situation. This is really pleasant, King Alcinous. But you've asked me something that is sad to me, something that causes me mourning. Where do I start? Well, I'm Odysseus. And of course, there's a sharp intake of breath as everyone realizes that the very hero they've been hearing about in the stories has been sitting amongst them.
Okay, it goes on just for a little bit, but it tells his class people, you know, what they're supposed to read next. But okay, tell me, what did you think? Well, maybe I'll go here first. Wasn't it interesting, the marrying age for girls? Have you heard this before? All of you would be married by now, every one of you, and maybe have a child or two. That sounds terrible to me. I'm glad I had a life before I got married. I still am having or a nun, right? If you were Catholic. They hadn't even thought about Catholicism at this moment. That doesn't come until after the Nicene Creeds. What is it, 225 or 325 AD? I can't remember. Anyway, okay, by the way, his name is Wes Callahan. I remembered it right after I turned on the video. And he was using a different edition. So if you notice, if you were trying to go to where he was reading, you were realizing this isn't the words I'm seeing on my page. These are not the words I'm seeing on my page. So he's using an older version. These videos were done, I don't know how many years ago they were done. And he talked about identity, and he talked about the difference between internal sight and external sight. And I'd love to come back to those, but I think where I really, really want to go is, why do you think gardens, especially secret or magical gardens, show up so often in literature? And I want you to think about that first. Why do you think gardens show up so much in literature? Kale.
Probably just because like they're like a secret, quiet place that you can usually go to escape like the world around you, like the chaos of the world, and just like something you can go and you always know that's going to be there.
I love that. I'm writing that down in the class notes here. Good. I love that. What else? Kendyl.
I think a lot like Kale just said, just things that are peaceful and stuff. And also, like, it's in the beginning of the scriptures, right? Like the beginning of time where there's something that the happiest of times can be, but also something like sad memories. I'm thinking of, he related it to like the secret garden where it's something that was so happy. Isn't it his name Uncle Archie? Something like that. Uncle Archie, he's so happy, and then his wife dies in this garden she loved, and so they don't go into it anymore. And so I think the gardens just symbolize something that is so amazing and so joyful and so peaceful, but some memories that are associated with it, like you don't want to go back, like the fall or Lily Archibald dying, or just things like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because even the Garden of Eden, they were banned from it. So there are some sad memories even from that one. They're banned from the fall, from the fall. Awesome. What else is coming to your mind? Why do you think gardens show up so often in literature? Let's see, Mia and then Enoch.
I think it can also symbolize like hope, because we have to like have hope that our garden will grow and that it'll like stay healthy. And so I think it could show like if we can have hope in this garden that's like so peaceful and quiet, and like then why can't we have hope in ourselves and that things will work out?
Awesome. Go ahead, Enoch.
I also think that it's a place where you can go and explore or do something, and not worry about somebody else coming and saying you can't do that one.
Okay, good. I like that. Anybody else? Carter?
So I think in some circumstances, they're not necessarily talking about a garden where it's like all neatly manicured lawn and perfect flower beds, no weeds, trees pruned to the perfect size, and bushes shaped like dinosaurs or whatever. But I think of a garden as like the wild outdoor, just being free outside. Like Enoch said, being able to go somewhere without having the rules and the possibility of someone coming to tell you you can't do that. Like in a manicured garden, somebody's going to come and tell you, don't climb the tree, don't walk on the lawn, don't step in the flower bed. But in the wild, there isn't a flower bed, there isn't a lawn. You can climb any tree you want. It's just freedom is what I think a good, true garden represents, I guess.
Awesome. Is it the kind of freedom that the Athenians had? I was just reading a Ronald Reagan speech. This is when he was a governor of California, and I just took a note on some mail yesterday because I was reading. I'm going, oh, I love this. It says history records when the freedom the Athenians wished for most was freedom from responsibility. Athens ceased to be free and was never free again. So they wanted to be free from any responsibility. And so I wonder if that's the kind of freedom that you're talking about, this wild outdoors, free, no rules, freedom, do we have a sense of responsibility when we go out into a garden, even a not a perfect garden? Because I think you're right that you can go out into a garden and it can be free and you can do all sorts of things, but is there a sense of responsibility that we have? Kale, do you have an answer to that question, or were you gonna answer to something else?
Oh, no, the question you just asked.
Okay.
It's just like you have the freedom, but you're not there to destroy. You're there to either create more of the garden or create more of yourself. Like build up yourself.
Ooh, I like that. I love that. I'm just writing it down. What, Kale, can I ask you some more? What do you mean? What does it look like to create more of yourself or to build more of yourself in a garden? What does that mean to you?
Well, like I said, you're not there to destroy anything, and you're trying to like build up your own spirit with like the beauty, or like the knowledge of like how it works, or the beauty of why it is, like how it is.
Okay, I like that. Does anybody else want to go further with this? Like, can you think of experiences where your life is like a garden? Kendyl.
Well, like to be able to we like weeds, and in our own lives we weed out the bad things, or so if we just go, it'll like we'll become just like weeds everywhere, in the sense that we haven't taken care of our repentance, we haven't used the atonement to our advantage. And so I guess that's probably the main thing. Yeah. And we also need like sunlight and water and stuff with like, if you replace SUN with SON for us, and then just like the scriptures and temple and all that kind of stuff.
The light of Christ. Love that. Good. Anybody else? There's even what's called wilderness, and Shakespeare has a lot of plays where the people go out into the wilderness. I'm thinking of one. What is it? It's a comedy, so it has a happy ending. It's not one of his more famous ones. I can't even remember what it's called now. But where is it? Well, Midsummer's Night Dream has a wilderness. That is so true. Because don't they go out and they find their loves? They always find their loves in the wilderness. So what could the wilderness is like a garden. What could it symbolize for you? Oh, Moses took his children of Israel out into the wilderness. What could the wilderness symbolize? Oh, that's cool, Kale and Lucy. Awesome. Eliana.
I think that the wilderness can symbolize life, because life can be kind of messy and confusing and challenging, and it's kind of, I don't know, a challenge that you have to rise to. And a lot of times it feels like you're just making it up as you go. Like you don't outgrow that phase of life. And so, I don't know. That's just what I was thinking about.
I love that. Naomi.
feel like I should check every time now.
You feel like what?
I feel like I should check every single time now, just because it didn't work that time. If my mic didn't work.
Oh, and you're kind of cutting out, but okay, so what did you want to add to wilderness?
Well, I was thinking about all the different places that we've lived in, how there's like beauty in lots of different places. My grandma lives in the desert in California, and I feel like it is like life, but we can make the most of life. So even if we have tough trials, and it may not be a beautiful garden all the time, I think we can still find the beauty in it and still find something to learn and grow.
I love that. There are trials, but we can still find the beauty in them, just like we do in gardens and in wildernesses. Love that. Super awesome. Okay, just really quickly, everybody. Remember to, oh gosh, messed up. Okay, remember to, when you go to classwork, go down to attend class on the side. These are all open and they don't need, oops, sorry. I guess they do need to be open. So go right now to September 18th. And remember to, some of you are not turning this in. Looks like somebody did already. That's awesome. So it's due today. And remember, if you participated in class, and by the way, thank you so much for putting your quotes down on the papers. That's so awesome. And remember to just do that right now. Almost always at the end of class, you can go on right now and do that, and then it'll be there. Okay. We just have like 3 minutes, and I wonder if we could go to Enoch. Can you go ahead and read your quote that you put up there, and then I'll have Mia do that too. We may not do a discussion, but we'll have you read it and kind of tell us a little bit. Looks like I'm cutting out. Sorry.
I can't. I hope I don't cut out. My internet is having problems.
We're all having problems today. Go ahead.
It was in the first book 5 on the second page.
Okay.
My child, Zeus, says, the one in charge of thunder. What nonsense you let through your teeth. Come on now. Wasn't this the plan your own? Conceived of yourself? Odysseus shall return the traitors back, and will pay the traitors back. Telemachus, sail him home with all your skill, power, and doubt, home to his native country unharmed. The reason I did that, I just thought it was kind of funny how sometimes we think of this great plan, and then we don't feel like it's working out as good as it should.
And so Zeus reminds us, listen, this was your own plan. You conceived it yourself. You can do it. Just go do it. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, sometimes we do lose hope. And we'll go back to Emma's first thing that she shared. Sometimes we listen to those negative voices and we lose hope. Right? That's a powerful tool of the devil. We need to remember it. Good. So Mia, let's go with yours.
Okay, mine is in book 8. Hear me, my lords and the captains of Phaeacia. Let Demodocus rest his singing lyre now. His song he sings can hardly please us all. Ever since our meal began and the stirring bard launched his song, our guest has never paused in his tears and throbbing sorrow. So I just really like how the king has been like looking out for Odysseus, and I don't know, like throughout the entire book, like I've written notes in my book how everyone is just like so kind and thoughtful to each other, and like they're so like hospitable, and I think that was really interesting. And I just like how he was like looking out for Odysseus and like how he was feeling, because he could see that he was upset. So I think like I feel like most of us do that, how if we like see someone who's sad or upset, like we try to like take the attention off of them, or like try to make them feel better by like just, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I like that. I think that's a great example that each one of you today are going to have some choices to make, whether you're going to be hospitable or whether you're not going to be hospitable. So I like that, Mia. I love that. I invite you all to be hospitable. I also invite you to think about gardens. Think about where you are in your garden. Are you nurturing it? Are you letting the sun come in and lighten up your garden? Watch how you act. Watch what you do. Are the things you're doing nurturing? Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. And hopefully next week when I see you, I will be a grandmother 6 times. Got to get that baby here. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, everybody. I'll go ahead and stay after if you need. I'm going to turn off my